welcome back. It is a wonderful Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the only time zone, actually. Everything else is plus or minus it. Don't listen to what the evil clock people tell you. It's a conspiracy. I am Eric Allen. I am the Life Coach on Twitch. I am the Life Coach Insta on Instagram. I am just the Life Coach on YouTube, but good luck finding me. You have to put in Holistic Life Consultants for now until you guys change that and that I become the number one, the only, the Life Coach on YouTube. How are you guys doing? How's your Wednesday? How's your family? How's your mom? What's going on? We have special guest today, Chris Macarini, author and critic, and we are going to be talking about Alec Baldwin and what's going on there. I have intentionally not looked things up for this because I don't want it to be unfair. We're going to discover some things together, and hopefully we find out what the deal is. So we're just going to put in some Alec Baldwin news. And we're going to find the written articles because I don't want to watch videos about, I mean, that's kind of, it's meta to watch a video about a video or a live stream about a video. I don't think I'm there. I'm just not there yet. No way. Okay. So anyway, I'm not going to keep reading this yet. So I'm going to show that stuff to him too, because it's just not fair. But it's wild. That's already wild. Oh no, I got to look up one other thing. Alec Baldwin charges. This looks like a video. I don't want to do that. That's September 27th. Okay. That's fine. This will do. And it's a bad picture of him. So we're going to go with that. All right. So I have the invite out to him. I am going to bring him on to the Zoom call. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about StreamYards. I know other people use it, and it seems like it's pretty good. I'm so used to OBS and Streamlabs that I just have been piecing that together and not using StreamYards. But I do have a guest on about every week, so it might be something to look into. But let me know what you think. Is it worth the hassle and going back through and doing more sound tests and more level checks and more of that stuff for like a week or two, and then kind of smooth that out and have more accessibility to have, even you guys jump on or have, easier time with guests? Or do we just kind of keep fumbling around with the technology that we have today and have people jump on Zoom calls instead? Limitations include me not being able to have my camera on Zoom because it's dedicated to this. It's on here. There is a quick, easy solution to that where I just have two cameras in front of me and one's dedicated to Zoom and one's dedicated to this. But rather than have two cameras, I might just use StreamYards. I don't know. It's up in the air. But you let me know what you guys think. We had, obviously, a holiday today. It was Yom Kippur. The Day of Atonement has been upon us, and fasting has been the order of the day for a lot of people out there. So if you did have to fast, I hope it was a fast, an easy fast. And if you didn't fast, let's go. So it's kind of weird that it's on a day right before I have to get up early. We have all these things happen, but that's fine. That's fine. Shout out to Jeremy Handley and Coffee Brand Coffee. I have the lid on backwards so you can't see it while I'm drinking it. Usually I don't. But I'm not going to change the lid. It's going to get coffee literally everywhere. And I'm not going to be another streamer who spills coffee all over their keyboard. Because I don't understand it. I don't understand how streamers spill drinks all over their keyboard. It's like you knew what was going to happen. This is an easily avoidable scenario. I can get up. I can go over to the coffee bar. I can get a paper towel, open this lid, wipe up the coffee that gets on the table, and then we're done. And then I can bring it back and show it to you. I also have, I have solutions today. And my mom was talking to me. She was watching my stream from Monday. And she said, how come your coffee mugs are getting cold? I bought you a hot pad, which, to be fair, in 2020, she bought me a hot pad. And it heats the bottom of the mug. But it only made this much of the mug warm, and then like the rest of it was still like not even tepid. It wasn't even lukewarm. It was still that exact gross warm, and I did not like it. So I have, and I'll show Chris this actually. Hold on, let me get him on, and then I can make my own picture disappear and hide my self view. All right, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can. I just want to make sure that the audience can hear you. It looks like it's hitting through the audio, but I just want to
Okay.
double check. Can we get a sound check? You guys hear Chris?
Testing, testing.
Like it should be good because I literally didn't change any settings, but I just want to make sure. Let's see. I'm going to put you in a window. I'm going to close participants so it's just you. And let's see. I think I'll put you in the top corner. All right. Nice. All right, wait, where did you go? Okay, so we have that. And yes, I could still scroll. All right, good. So I was just telling them, and I don't know if you can, are you looking at the stream? Because I know you can't
No.
see me on Zoom, but I have 3 thermoses today of coffee. I literally brewed a fresh pot of coffee at home. I don't, because if you guys don't know, I've been using decaf in the office. And so like I'll be brewing coffee in my office right before the live stream at like 7:10ish. So it smells like coffee and it's really nice. It's got that like whole like coffee bar aroma going on in here. And I'm trying to drink decaf coffee because in the evening, obviously it's the evening. I'm trying not to drink high caffeine at night. But then I was reading a bunch of articles yesterday or Monday about how it's really bad for you. It's like it's bad for your heart. It's bad for your cholesterol levels to drink decaf. It's like potentially has like carcinogenic effects. And I'm like, damn it. Oh, and if you drink more than like 3 to 5, like was it 3? It was 2 to 3 cups of coffee of decaf. You could start to have these negative adverse reactions. And I'm like, what the hell? I'll just drink regular coffee because regular coffee doesn't have all those side effects, even if you drink like 4 or 5 cups. So I'm back to caffeinated coffee at night. So I don't have that here at the office, but I have thermos number 1 of coffee brand coffee. I have thermos number 2, which is my thermos brand thermos, but you can't tell because the label's gotten rubbed off because I've had it for too long. And then I've got thermos number 3, which is my Hitch bottle that I got from I think it was Indiegogo campaign. So yeah, I have all of the caffeine. There is no caffeine that I don't have, and I have extremely fresh coffee for this time of night.
Cool. Eric, can you send me the link for the stream?
Yeah. Let me see. Let's put you on. I'm just gonna put it in the chat.
Perfect.
Twitch is the easiest one because I don't know the URL of the YouTube channel because I don't have enough subscribers, which you guys can help me with. I don't have enough subscribers yet to have a URL that is The Life Coach, because as soon as that happens, it's super easy to find me, but I think you have to have like 2,000 subscribers or something. So we'll see. That's a in the future thing. In the meantime, Twitch is super easy because that's literally just my name. I really like that about Twitch. It's twitch.tv/whatever the person is that you're looking for by their name. And it's always like that. That's why you can only ever have one person who has that name. And it's very streamlined. It's very easy to send out the links. And it looks smooth too on the streams. Like I have on here like my website. I have my Instagram, which is the same type of thing as my Twitch. But then YouTube, it's like, that's not what it is. Do we do full screen? All right, we're full screen. All right, layout, nice. Okay, so everything's working. Did you find the Twitch stream?
I did, but I needed to mute it so that um, we didn't get feedback.
Oh, you didn't want to hear two of me? Especially if it's on a like 6 second delay.
Yep, which it is.
That's the best. Just hearing me say something and then hearing my echo say it back to you after 6 seconds over and over. All right. Are you ready to talk about Alec Baldwin?
Oh, we're still on Alec Baldwin, are we?
I saved it for you. I didn't talk about it until you were on.
Okay.
So there's two articles that I have here. The first one that I have is this one, which is Baldwin reaches a settlement with the family of the Rust cinematographer. So this is one of those rare instances where the civil suit is settled before the criminal suit. It's almost always the opposite. Like you almost, like OJ's civil suit was like, what was that, 2-3 years after the criminal suit was over, and that took like a year.
Well, and I mean Alec Baldwin, he did the interview with whatever channel it was, like the next day practically. And you're like, come on, man. He's such a narcissist that, and don't get me wrong, because I like Alec Baldwin's movies. As a person, eh. Um, you know, there's always some drama, which out of nowhere, his wife is just a wackadoo. Um, you know, first of all, like God, what is it, 20, 30 years younger than him,
Yeah,
and
just a few years.
yeah, she actually grew up like I think the town next to where I grew up in Western Mass, but she said she was from Barcelona, and
Don't you know? Don't you know that she is a Hispanic woman that is from South America, but actually from Massachusetts?
she's not.
What a weird flex, too. Like, I remember when that was like a thing that she kind of got called out for being like whiter than rice, and it was like everybody was like, just why did you have to go around saying that? Like, I don't understand why you had to go around pushing this narrative that you're South American.
Yeah, I mean, people get caught for a lot smaller lies than that, and the fact that she thinks she can, this would someone would ignore it, like, and just gloss over it. And that's what I think is they. Alec Baldwin was just like, yeah, don't worry, nobody will check. I'm Alec Baldwin. Yeah.
I can actually picture that conversation. Don't worry about it, honey. I'm Alec Baldwin. Nobody's even going to question it.
Yeah.
If they do, I'll do the shadow move on them, and they'll forget what they were saying, and I'll forget you ever existed. So, I think about that, and I would say like, who would do that? But then I think back to like Elizabeth Warren and like her saying that she's Native American for like ever, like it was like literally like decades. She's like, yeah, my peepaw, my meemaw, and she literally published a cookbook called Pow Wow Chow.
In which she stole the recipe from like a Betty Crocker cookbook.
Yeah, and then she gets her DNA test back, and I'm more Native American than she is, and it's just like, you had to know this was coming. You had to know. You leveraged this for 30 years. You had to know it was coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is she believed, she'd been lying for so long she actually started to believe it.
Yeah.
She said she grew up poor. Well, she had a brand new convertible in high school, so she couldn't have been that poor.
Unless she stole it.
That's how her Native American lie got her in to teach at Harvard. That, like, it was just, oh, and yet we keep reelecting her in Massachusetts. So shame on us.
To be fair, and it's not like I'm a fan of Elizabeth Warren, but to be fair, find me a politician that isn't a liar.
Right.
So I mean, like, oh my God, that politician's a liar. Uh-huh. Go on. Do go on. What else? What else? Oh, nothing? Okay. Well, all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's bad. It's bad. Like, her lie in particular is worse than like Baldwin's wife's lie, in the sense that it's not like Baldwin's wife was using that to get into doors she couldn't get into otherwise.
Right. It was just plain old delusional behavior.
Right. She's just a whack job.
Yeah.
Whereas Elizabeth Warren was intentionally and insidiously lying to herself until she believed that, and then she was utilizing that to further her career.
Or she just got caught up in it so much that she, at some point, you can only lie so much before you just have to keep it up.
Well, and she still continues to keep it up to this day. She still pushes it. She won't bring it up actively anymore, but like if you pushed her on it, she'll keep going on it and say, "Yeah, no, I really am. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like you just keep lying." So it's funny actually that you bring that up. It's one of these days I'll do a full stream on the psychological principle of George Costanza, lying to yourself enough until you believe it, and then you can beat a lie detector test, because that really is a thing.
Oh, absolutely. And I think everyone experiences it. And sometimes I'm like, there's certain, sometimes when you're telling a story and you're telling it, you don't want to say, well, a friend of mine, his brother did, like, you just say, it happened to me, just for the sake of getting the anecdote out. And then after, you keep telling it, and if it's a hit, and then at some point you're like, oh wait, that wasn't me. I shortened the story to try to just say whatever, just for the sake of telling a good story. But I'm not profiting off of it,
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I remember, in my 20s and early 30s, just like meeting up with friends from like elementary school, middle school, high school, and like you'll talk about things and like reminisce, and like people have different takes that are completely different as to like who that thing happened to, how bad it was, like, and in what grade it was. And it's like you're just sitting around talking to these people and you're like, that's not how it happened. And you wonder, it's like, well, who actually has the right story? Because if I've been telling this story like this for 20 years and you've been telling the opposite story for 20 years, there's no way for us to know. We have no footage, we have no cameras, we have nothing. But clearly one of us, if not both of us, have distorted reality and then full on sent that reality and believed it 100% after about 20 years of just repeating it over and over. And it's before a time when like you're really cognizant. You're talking like 8, 9, 10 years old. You're not intentionally thinking like, oh, let me manipulate the story to make me look better, or like make this one person look smarter. You're just kind of, it's almost an innocent interpretation at that point that then you completely forget. Like, I wonder how many of our memories from childhood are even real.
Yeah. And then there's the other thing, the stealing from other areas, where I told this ghost story to my nieces and nephews, and they're just like, that was awesome, like da da da. But I made it like it happened to me, and I'm like, actually, that was a Halloween episode of The Growing Pains where I stole them from,
That was Quantum Leap.
Yeah, I fessed up to it. Oh, by the way, I watched the first episode of the new Quantum Leap, and
no,
it has potential, but it was just such a milquetoast premiere. It was like, meh.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, we'll see what they do. It's got a good cast.
I know. I was like, wow, this is, if you're going to redo yet another IP, might as well do it with a good cast. And I was pretty excited. And I was going to wait until it had a few episodes before I started watching it. Well, that's sort of disappointing. But, I mean, again, not unexpected. I mean, we are in this horrible time of just remakes and reboots. It's like the last time it was this bad was early 2000s, when just the well was completely dry and you were just seeing the remake of everything. We're right back in that rut. There are very few original blockbuster movies being put out. There's very few original show ideas coming out. I just saw they're making a reality show, The Love Boat.
Ugh.
And it's going to actually have people in it who are like hooking up and getting together, but they're reality show wannabes, and it's being hosted by the guy who was Quinn Mallory in Sliders.
Okay.
Like, I can never remember his name, but he's in a bunch of shit. And Tom
Gary
Katz.
Gary O'Connell?
Yeah, O'Connell. Yeah, the least Irish looking O'Connell in history. But he's like one of the hosts. And I'm just watching this, and it's like The Real Love Boat, and here's the captain, and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, you can't. here's where we're at. We're even making reality TV shows that are rebooting old like sitcom romance crap. I mean, the Love Boat was it's not like the Love Boat was ever good.
No, it was, I don't know. When I was, 6, it was great.
Yeah.
Friday night was Love Boat and Fantasy Island. But yeah, the reality shows are, I actually found, what was the one they drop everybody off with cameras in, it was on Netflix, and I watched it and I'm like, this reminds me of like the first season of Survivor. I really liked, and after that I couldn't stand it when it became,
Yeah.
models and all that. But that's what this was. These are guys are up in, I forgot where they are. They're in Alaska, I believe, and they have to set up their cameras. They are literally alone. Um, there's no camera crews and all that. And I actually found it pretty riveting, to see who makes it.
There was, I saw it
I
on
can't remember the
Netflix.
name of it.
I don't think it was originally a Netflix thing, but I watched it years ago, probably like 8, 9 years ago, and it was the same deal. It was a group of survivors that got dropped in a part of northern Alaska, and they had to hoof it all the way down to like a town. Like that was they had a goal to get to this one town, and they had limited resources and backpacks, but they had a survival guide with them who was like teaching them how to like dress like a squirrel or like how to skin and dress a porcupine and like how to like live off of what was available there. And so you had these like inexperienced people, and it was actually pretty good. Like it was interesting in the sense that like these people had no idea what they were doing, but they had to like figure out all this stuff, and they were like counting calories and making sure they weren't getting too skinny on their trip. And then if they had to get medevaced, like some of them would get medevaced and helicoptered out of there, and they were out. And so like at the end, I think there were like out of the whole group, 3 people I think made it.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
It was cool. It was something like Escape Alaska or something. It was neat, and it was only one season. I don't think they did it again, but it was cool. It was like a one time thing. That it was a real looking reality show.
I think this one is it Alone? I think it
The
is.
Netflix one.
Yeah.
All right, let me see. It's an American survival competition series on
Yeah.
history.
Yeah, I watched it on Netflix. I guess there's a bunch of seasons. The most recent one is there.
Oh wow, it was 2015 that they started this. History Channel or IMDb shows that they have a bunch of seasons.
Yeah. I only watched the one on Netflix, which I was really impressed with. Um,
Season
Here's one.
7.
Do you remember a show? So it happened before, just as 9/11 was happening, because one of the contestants died on 9/11. I think it was called Murder in Small Town X.
Yeah, 2001. Gary Fredo.
It was it was a reality show, but you had to solve a murder mystery. And it
Weird.
was like a weird small town. They had like a cult. They had like, it was, I remember I watched the whole thing. It was great, but it was the winner of the show was a fireman in New York City who passed away during 9/11.
Oh wow.
Um, but it was an interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean it was well received. 8.2 out of 10.
Yeah. Well, it had a plot, it had a,
Well, it's just a
you
cool
know,
idea. Like
yeah,
just the idea that you have I like that there's actors, but the people who are actually solving it don't know, and there's no lines. Like
right.
they just have to go try to figure it out. It would be like doing a murder mystery dinner, but like for a long time. That's pretty cool. I wonder why that didn't get another season.
Well, I think you know, what happened with you know, the tragedy. So yeah.
But I can't. Why would that shut down a series from continuing.
I'm not sure, but and
As
maybe
as
it
we
got
say this, remember, as we say this, here's a trailer, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So, I mean, it's not like people dying tragically stops the series from continuing.
yeah.
I mean, talk about a tragedy. Black Panther was a great movie, and I liked the character that they actually produced. It's one of the few characters that in the movie I liked better than in the comics and the cartoons. And he was just such a perfect character and a perfect actor for the character. And then they're like, oh, yeah, well, he's got cancer. He's going to die now. So you're not ever going to have that happen again. It was so like all of a sudden, it was like genuinely one of those like tragedies in Hollywood where I'm like, oh, this guy doesn't deserve this.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I'm glad they keep it going because it was so well received. And, there's so few movies out there with it was almost an entirely black cast, which is, you don't see that anymore. And it shows that those movies can make money.
Oh, it made
Uh,
plenty of money.
yeah.
That movie
I
did
mean,
just fine.
yeah. Maybe they'll make a blockbuster with made up entirely of women over 40. God forbid.
You leave my what is that, the Bridesmaids movie alone. You leave that alone. That was a great movie, and I don't want to hear different.
Oh,
But
don't get they're out there, but I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. It's one of those things like I don't know about you, but I wanted to see another Deborah Winger movie, and then she just disappeared because I think she turned 40. Yeah,
that did happen. That was a thing that happened for sure. And particularly in Hollywood, it's brutal on women, and really after 35, it's brutal on women.
me and my wife we're watching a movie. We always check the ages of the lead actor and the lead actress, and more often than not, there's a 20 years age difference.
Well, look at Alec Baldwin and his wife. They're like on screen, off screen. It's like 20, 30-year gap in age, and but that is normal. That is normal in movies because men age much better on screen than women. It's just
Well, I don't necessarily think that's true. I think the Hollywood execs want, for whatever reason, they just say that, oh, the lead has to be 20 years old.
oh, I
And
think
this
we know
goes
why.
way back. I mean, I think Lauren Bacall into Have and Have Not was like 18 and Humphrey Bogart was 50.
Yeah, well, I think you know why. It's not hard to figure that out. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's
Well,
what I'm saying is that women age out of Hollywood very early, whereas men age into Hollywood. I mean, you get a lot of people that they come onto the scene in their 30s and they have their full career in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. Like it's crazy. Like there's people that I see and I'm like, man, why do they look so old? And I look them up, I'm like, oh, they're in their 60s. But they were just making movies like 10 years ago because that's just the norm. Like you just see these older guys on screen and it's like, okay, well, you're in your 50s, but we have you like with this 25-year-old running in a temple. Okay, totally buy that. I mean, like even like I looked at when the new Spider-Man movie came out, and I'm looking at Toby. I'm like, you're looking old, dude. Holy shit, he looks old. It wasn't that long ago that he was doing those movies. I thought he was in his 20s. He was in his 30s, solidly in
yeah.
his 30s.
But he's one of those actors that looked young, and that's why it's easier to, cast those roles.
Yeah, yeah, he looked way younger than his age. When he was in his 30s, he looked like 18. He's like one of those adults that you're like, are you 12 or are you 20? I'm not sure. But speaking of tragedies that happen to actors, but they don't necessarily not deserve it, the family did reach a settlement. And
Okay.
I have the most up-to-date information on this Alec Baldwin thing, and then I'm going to go over a little bit of it, and then I'm going to get your take on what should and should not happen here. Because we already know what has. We know Alec Baldwin shot this woman, Helena Hutchins. And by the way, production of the film is going to resume in January, and I want to talk about that too. So remind me to ask you your thoughts on that. And blah, blah, blah. The suit that was filed by her husband, her young son and personal representative of her estate, accused him Baldwin, and other defendants of reckless conduct and cost-cutting measures that endangered crew, including failing to follow basic industry standard safety checks and gun safety rules. So let's see. She was 42 when she was shot. That really sucks. Other civil lawsuits have been filed against the production crew by members, and recently requested additional funds to cover costs. The DA's office did. I don't know. Did we talk about that? So the district attorney requested more money. So it was like, yo, he's going to go deep. Like, this is definitely, it's going to be bigger.
Well, I mean, it kind of comes down to, and I kind of see the point of, and we talked about this because, again, I didn't really go deep into it. And I thought they were actually doing a scene and that required him to pull the trigger. And I guess that's not the case.
That is not the case.
So there's a couple different factors here. One is the fact that, there's a good chunk of America that has never shot a gun.
That is true.
And they don't realize, in the way it's presented a lot of times, is guns just go off for no reason.
Right. Those evil guns.
Yeah. Back in the olden days, in the early 1900s, and you'd always have, a revolver, and you would keep the hammer down on an empty chamber. And that's because back then they didn't have the safety features in the revolvers, so that if you did drop it, that hammer could in fact ignite the firing pin and fire the gun. So the safety protocol was to leave an empty chamber when you carried the revolver. That's no longer the case. And even with these Westerns, they're not using antique single action revolvers anymore. They're using replicas.
Yeah.
Because they have to, because old time revolvers would explode in hands. They would do, it was just, yeah. So he had a gun with a live round in it. So first off, having a movie set with live ammunition anywhere near where they could get confused is ridiculous. So there's something else going on there. And I think that, and then the other rule, the gun safety rule, because I'm going to guess you start shooting a movie just like you would do. You started working at a construction site, you start working at a factory, you have to go through a safety lecture. Maybe they skip that, but part of that safety lecture on a movie set with working with guns is you never, ever, ever point a gun, loaded or not, at another person unless it's all been cleared. So goofing around and all of that. And you see this all the time when like I've taught people how to shoot before, and you're like, okay, here are the rules. You don't put your finger on the trigger unless you're ready to fire, and you do not point it at anyone no matter what.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is not a Hollywood training thing. This is literally any adult who's ever taught any other person about how to shoot a gun. You never, ever point that gun at anyone, no matter what. There is no, if it's clear, you don't do it. It's always downrange or down, downrange or down. If you're walking up to it, it better be pointed down at the ground. If you are shooting downrange, you bring the gun up from the ground. You're not pulling it around. There's no waving guns, or like I can't even imagine, and I grew up in the country and there's a lot of yahoos, where I grew up, and they get a lot of flack for being rednecks or whatever. But one thing that never has happened, no matter how much alcohol was involved, nobody ever in my entire life have I ever seen wave a gun around. Ever. No, I don't care how drunk. Never have I seen somebody wave a gun around or move it left and right or do anything sudden, like any sudden movements with a gun. Whenever it came to guns, your biggest of rednecks would be appalled if you were to say, move the gun left or right or not, just be very serious about the gun. They'd be appalled. It's like offensive. Like I just... Anybody who I ever knew that was using guns, firing guns, anything like that, they always had a respect for the barrel of a gun.
Right.
And the idea that this guy, who's not young, I mean, he's not a kid, and he wasn't drunk, and he was doing a set that he was not only in charge of financially, but also was the main actor in, any movements like that just seem to me impossible. This is my conspiracy theory of why I don't think it was an accident. Because how in the hell did he do that?
Well, I mean, the nearest I can figure is he was goofing around and he thought the gun was unloaded. Right? He says the gun just went off.
Yeah,
We know
that's
that
what he
that's
says.
not, we know he can't be trusted.
Right, obviously.
But it's the fact that because didn't the bullet went through the cinematographer and then it killed her and then hit the director as well, right?
I don't know how many people it hit, but I know the only person that gets attention on this is the chick that he killed. But, okay, so there's two things about this that I just have a big problem with. Mr. Baldwin said in his television interview last year that someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who it is, but I know it is not me. This is right after he shot this woman. The thing he wanted to make sure he came out on TV and say is that I know somebody's responsible for this, but it sure as hell isn't me. That's what he was concerned with. Don't blame me, guy who shot gun at girl and killed her. It wasn't me. And then her husband said, the idea that the person holding the gun and causing it to discharge is not responsible is absurd to me. As it should be. So this is a guy who he's got 30 years of experience with firearms on sets, and I'll go back up to what he was doing. So in the scene, Mr. Baldwin was practicing when the gun discharged. Even how this New York Times article writes this is bullshit. It's so sympathetic to him. Listen to that wording. In the scene, Mr. Baldwin was practicing when the gun discharged. His character was cornered by the authorities in a small wooden church when he decides to shoot his way out. Look at that framing. That framing is the most insanely generous framing I have ever seen in my entire life in the New York Times. Like, a different way to say this is, in the scene where Mr. Baldwin was practicing when he shot the woman, his character was supposed to be cornered by authorities. But, like, even the way that they couch the sentence gives your brain the sense that, like, oh, he was cornered, and like, well, he wasn't really cornered. There was no cornered. This was a scene he was just sitting in practicing. It wasn't even like being shot for like the actual scene. This is insane.
So so his character was so they were rehearsing a scene. They're saying
yes,
but again, in the scene, Mr. Baldwin was practicing when the gun discharged.
Yeah.
So that's actually for the New York Times. That's actually probably fairly good reporting because it's not saying accidentally. It's not saying so somehow the gun went off.
Right. I mean, but the way that they say it is like the sentient gun discharged. Like the gun, the gun had to take a leak and it pissed a bullet at the time that Alec Baldwin was practicing the scene. Like, it all but gives the gun sentience and decision-making capability.
Well, I think what it's saying is they're not saying he pulled the trigger, but they're not saying he didn't pull the trigger, but the gun went off.
But he did pull the trigger.
We know that. But again, he's alleging he didn't. They should report that.
Exactly.
The gun went off. Baldwin alleges he did not pull the trigger. So,
but five witnesses on the set say he did.
It was a ghost. It was the ghost of the Mayor 49er or whatever that accidentally discharged the gun.
Yeah.
And did this.
Yeah, it was clearly not Alec Baldwin.
Right.
But again, you've fired guns. I've fired guns. You've been around people who fire guns. How could you imagine that he would have thought this was okay? Like, how is this an accident? Like, I'm just not sure how this is an accident. I could go with carelessness, that this was careless, that this was thoughtless, that this was stupid. This is not a pure accident. Like, an accident makes it sound like he tripped, fell with the gun in his hand, and then the gun fired off and hit her. He recklessly went after and pulled the trigger. Like, I just don't understand how it's an accident.
Well, I would understand it if he said the armorer gave me the gun and said it was unloaded. And so they were rehearsing the shot. The cinematographer was acting where the camera would be. And the scene required him to point the gun at the camera and pull the trigger. But I think we know nowadays that, especially after Brandon Lee, is you check the gun.
Yeah, always.
And, it's I remember when this first happened and you had all these TV shows, and I think it was The Rookie, and they came out and said, oh, we're only going to use these type of rounds now and whatever. And I'm like, I'm sorry, were you using live ammunition on TV?
What the hell were you using before?
So I wasn't really clear what it was. And maybe it was a different, less impactful blank round, which maybe they thought that was what it was. But this was a live round in the revolver. Now, I mean, I would go to say that, revolvers in the Old West were, they were not, I forgot when actual rounds, bullets came out and when they were common. But basically, as you see in like the Outlaw Josie Wales, when he's shooting his 6-gun, he takes the barrel out and puts in a new barrel.
Yeah.
That's because there's balls in there and the gunpowder and all of that is, and the firing pin is all there. They're not bullets.
Right.
And so I honestly don't know. Now, maybe with the replica guns, it might be different, but I'm going to guess they used a more modern replica gun that took bullets.
I would imagine. They're not using gunpowder cotton.
It's pretty common with Westerns to kind of, because it tells the story better with bullets rather than, having to explain the, single action guns and how they work.
No, but I guess like my point about this is, let me see, I gotta fix my camera. There we go. My point about this is just to say that I don't see how it's not recklessness. And I'll give you two different things. Like, one is when you hear these stories about like Will Smith freaking out on somebody for pointing a gun at somebody else on a set, and Keanu Reeves doing something similar and checking and making sure the gun is completely empty when somebody's being careless with it, that this is kind of like, it seems like to me that it's a high intensity thing. Like that this is like actually, it's pretty intensive to have a gun on set, and that if you're even just an actor in it, it seems like it's probably like stressful to have a gun on a set. Like, I mean, call me crazy, but that just seems like if you have people that are doing things like that where they're freaking out on other people, then maybe, just maybe, this is a thing that, drives people up the wall.
And I think, didn't Nicolas Cage like kick that armor off the set of one of his movies?
Yeah.
For being unsafe?
That exact armor, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that exact armor was kicked off by Nicolas Cage for being not good enough at this. Like, he was like, no, you're terrible. Get the hell away off my set. I don't want you working here. And, Alec Baldwin cuts corners and finds this, not so great armorer. And it's like, yeah, hey, we need you on our set. So that's my one problem. The second problem is, I don't know if you know a lot about the Kim Potter trial. It happened in December of 2021. It was a police officer who fired a gun because she thought it was her taser. So she reached for the wrong thing and then she fired it. Well, she was actually found guilty of being reckless, and it was manslaughter, I want to say 2, I think, because even though she had no idea she was going to shoot him, she was still ultimately found responsible for recklessness that led to the cause of death. So it wasn't murder 1, but it was, hey, you were reckless, and because of your recklessness, somebody's dead.
Yeah, I noticed that police officers keep their taser and use it with the opposite hand of their gun hand, and I think that's done for a reason.
Well, I watched that entire trial, and there was a training that did the opposite of that, and then there was a new training that did that, but she was an older cop, so she was trained in the different way. So she was trained cross taser after she was taught the taser's on your right and the gun is on your cross. So it was pretty clear that she was not, it was muscle memory, because she was like in a very fast, panicky situation where the guy was an imminent threat of like not only retreating in a vehicle, but potentially running over her partner, and had another passenger in the car who he was going to immediately be putting in danger by driving off. So this guy also had a history of violence. He had a warrant for of having a gun illegally, so they didn't know where the gun was. They didn't know if he still had a gun. So it was a very high-intensity situation. My point about this is just that this jury crucified this chick for doing her job and not knowing that she was reaching for her gun when she was reaching for her taser in a life-or-death scenario.
And if you flash back, pre-tasers, which was only
20?
5 years ago.
Well, 20 years ago they had them. Standard procedure was not that long ago. It was like 8 years ago.
Well, I mean, I started noticing it, cops carrying them like on a regular basis. It might have been 5-7 years ago, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she would have been justified in shooting him. You're running from the police. That's one of the things that movies give people the idea that, the cops have guns drawn on you, and they say, put your hands up, drop the weapon, and you think you have time to give a speech. It's pretty much, yeah.
No, dude.
If you have a gun in your hand, drop the gun, bang. Yeah, it's...
Well, and the funny thing is that ironically, if she would have just shot him and not said, oh my God, I shot him, like she said it on camera, oh my God, I shot him, she would have totally gotten no problem. There would have been no case, nothing. The fact that she did not intend to kill him is what got her in jail.
Yeah. Well, and she was honest. And frankly, I believe they, when it happened, because I do remember the case. I didn't remember her name, but, the family had to move out of the house that night because I think there were threats and whatever. I don't know if they...
She was living in another state.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't super far away, but she was in another state. She went across the border with her family, and they had to hide her address because she was getting all these death threats. But yeah, my point is that we saw a woman get crucified. What's up, chick mate? Talking about Alec Baldwin being a terrible human being. So we nail this woman to the cross. She immediately is arrested for this. She's not just put on administrative leave. She's immediately arrested for this. She gets arraigned, and a year later, she's on a trial and is convicted of involuntary manslaughter with recklessness. So Alec Baldwin shoots and kills somebody, clearly, like has a gun in his hand, shoots somebody, they're dead, doesn't get arrested, does an interview insanely the next day saying it's not my fault. And a year later, we still don't even have charges brought up against this guy. That's what I'm talking about. Tell me how his behavior was not as reckless, if not more so, than Kim Potter's.
Yeah. Well, there's not only the fact that he pulled the trigger or the gun went off, but the fact that he was in charge of the set.
Yeah, well, there is that too. Well, and remember they kept downplaying it and saying, oh, he was just the money. And it's like, no, he was a decision maker. He was one of the people that was in charge of making decisions, and people were pissed off about his decisions and were actively complaining about it at that time, that he was cheaping out on things. And this was being brought to his attention that, hey, we don't like that you're cheaping out on things and it's not going right. So this was mismanaged, hardcore.
And if you think about it, and I think we talked about this, is guns have been used in movies since D.W. Griffith did the train robbery. And there have been, and you can honestly say that, John Eric Hexum died, but he was rehearsing and he used blanks, and he had a gun to his head with a blank, and he didn't realize that, or whatever. But then you had the Brandon Lee thing, which was a fluke thing.
Yeah.
and then you have this. So I mean, this is really the only case that I know of where it was a flagrant, there was a live bullet in a gun on a movie set and someone got shot.
Right. Right. Where I mean, the facts are so crystal clear. There are
In
witnesses.
100 years of movie making.
Right. And there are 5 to 12 witnesses who were literally right in front, intently watching him because it was their job to do so. I mean, you have a camera, you have all of this stuff, and he's not even charged.
But I thought it was only him, the director, and the cinematographer in the room rehearsing. Were there other witnesses?
There are multiple witnesses. I mean, this is multiple people have come forward and said, like, yeah, like, we saw what he did. And it's like, how can you have this many witnesses? How can you have, I mean, even if it's just the director, which, by the way, the director probably is shitting their pants too, because they're like, I'm going to get arrested. Like,
well, I mean, you could, for unsafe work conditions, blah, whatever. Alec Baldwin could perceivably get charged with murder.
Well, it depends on the state. I didn't know this, but it depends on the state. Like, there's states that will say murder 1, murder 2, but what they really mean is involuntary manslaughter is murder 2. And so in other states, they have involuntary manslaughter, they have murder 1, murder 2, and then they have like reckless endangerment, and like there's different categories of crime. I don't know what it's called in New Mexico, but perceivably he should be charged at the very least with recklessness that caused the death of another human being, in my opinion. I just don't see how he gets away with not having that. So that brings us to our next article. Alec Baldwin's lawyer issues statement after DA says actor could face charges. It's become apparent that we will be potentially charging between 1 and 4 people with criminal charges, Santa Fe County District Attorney Mary Carmack Altwise said during a meeting last week. So this is September 27th. So this is a good week ago. And finally, they're saying, yeah, we might charge 1 to 4 people. Now, we know probably, very likely, because she did request more money to do this case. So that right there signals that she intends to file charges. But it's been a year, and there hasn't even been a charge.
Well, again, it's podunk, right?
It's Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Oh, is it?
This is not.
I thought it was like some. I thought it was in the middle of nowhere.
This is Santa Fe. This is a big municipality. This place has resources. And here's my other problem about this: preservation of evidence, integrity of evidence. Everybody has their memory degrade over time, and you haven't even taken an investigatory approach to everybody involved yet. You haven't gotten an official statement from these people. Like, you haven't arrested him and had him give a statement if he wants. You haven't, there's so many things that could have been done already if charges were brought that now are going to have to be a year later. And every time you wait for stuff like that, everybody's memory degrades. Everything gets worse. Wow, he's 64. Even in this article says, during a New Mexico Board of Finance meeting held September 20th, Carmack Altwise requested emergency funding in excess of $635,000 to continue the investigation into the tragedy that took place on October 21st, when Baldwin, 64, was holding the gun that discharged and killed 42-year-old cinematographer, how do you say that? Helena Hutchins, and injured director Joel Sorza. Yeah, so it did injure the director. He was trying to go for a twofer. But yeah, he was holding the gun that discharged. That's incredible. Yeah. That's incredible. I don't know. Why are we saying it like this?
Well, again, it's there. This article actually says Baldwin has maintained that he did not pull the trigger.
Right.
And it's its own paragraph, basically kind of saying, So
do you think this is just a CYOA?
Well, honestly, I think we've gotten so accustomed to, um, you know, reporting that is so slanted one way or the other. This is actually in the other article too, which is just a very straightforward, just the facts. Um,
I don't believe in the integrity of journalism just suddenly sprouting up because of like, ethics or anything. If anything, they don't want
yeah,
to get sued.
you always, yeah, I mean, but again, they don't, we don't want to go down that.
But if you make a statement of fact that he did pull the trigger, and then the jury agrees with him that he didn't, you've now made a false statement of fact about Alec Baldwin.
But they have to, again, they're saying the gun went off and someone died, and Baldwin has maintained he did not pull the trigger.
Right.
So who knows? Maybe there was a practical special effect where the gun, I don't know.
Yeah, it was those
right?
timed bullets that just go off after a certain amount.
Right. So, I mean, all you can say is, let's see what happens. But I hope the investigation comes to light, and we get the answers. And this is the kind of thing, and with some of the other nonsense going on in the country, you just gotta I stopped reading the conjecture about it, and just when all the facts are in, then okay, great. But
what's the fun in that?
I know. Life's too short. There's too many
man.
movies to see, man.
You gotta at least try to pick on the guy. I mean, he did shoot and kill somebody.
No. So there was a time, and I could say it's still the case, but Alec Baldwin was one of those actors that if I saw a movie with him in the video store, I got it. It was and 99% of the time I was happy with my decision.
Yeah.
He's one of those go-to actors or actresses where I just would always get the movies. And frankly, I just noticed lately he's been making bad movies consistently. He made one with Selma Hayek, and I love her. And they were like a married couple, and they just it
was bad. Awful. It was really, really bad.
But you go back, and I mean, I still remember there was a movie called Heaven's Prisoners, which was based on a series of books that I love by James Lee Burke. And he was the lead guy, and it was, and I remember reading it was like the lowest grossing movie of that year, but it was a fantastic movie. And I mean, there was a great New Orleans rooftop foot chase, and very well done. But again, and that's, I just got, he was always that go-to. And I mean, never mind the Glenn Ross cameo and the, put that coffee down, coffee's for closers speech.
Yeah. I love that speech. Oh my God.
And one of my favorites is Malice, where, I don't have a God complex. I am God.
Yeah.
I mean, just fantastic. But yeah, I mean, but you don't, and this is what you have to do is, as somebody who loves movies and watching movies, you can't not watch a movie because you don't like the actor. Otherwise, you wouldn't watch any movies.
Oh no, yeah. I'm on board 100% with that part of what you're saying. What I'm saying is, like, I don't hate his movies just because I think he's a piece of trash. Him in particular, I'm interested in because he lives his life as an actor. Like, it's like he's always acting. He's never not acting. So, everybody else, like, I'll give them credit because it's like, look, you're just a person and you do a job and you're acting and it's fine. Alec Baldwin plays Alec Baldwin in real life all day, every day.
Yeah.
So he's more of a caricature than any other person in Hollywood that I can think of. Really, he really is like a caricature. He's not a real person. I doubt he even knows who he really is at this point.
Well, I mean, whether he's calling his daughter a pig on a voicemail, or punching out paparazzi, or he's an asshole.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, and he's always been. I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't really follow celebrity gossip and all of that. I mean, just being a movie fan, you tend to pick up some of it, and but I like Kim Basinger. I think she's probably really good person, but their divorce was horrible.
Yeah.
And, and so I definitely side with her on that, knowing nothing about the divorce. Just, yeah, this
Because
is
that one
America. I
wasn't
can just have
televised.
an off the cuff opinion. Um, but, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's almost like it's that cosmic karma, I guess. When you have, I had a boss years ago, and he was horrible, and a lot of people left the company because of him and whatever, and he just kept going because he just played up the ladder really well, and it ended up he left the company, went somewhere else, and he got canned for multiple reasons. He went down in flames, and it was glorious. And there was a whole community of us who hated him, that all just, oh, did you hear what happened? Yeah. Um, but and it's kind of the same thing with Alec Baldwin, where take the politics out of it. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people that just love Alec Baldwin and how he lives his life.
No, no,
Um,
I highly doubt that. I highly doubt he has an actual fan club of people who like him as a person. But that being
well,
said,
there's wackadoos out there for everyone.
no, that's true. But that being said, the sheriffs at least did a full investigation so far, so that's good. There is a preservation of evidence, and they said that they're within days or weeks of getting that full investigatory report. And as soon as they get that, I'm sure that's when you're going to see the indictments come out. So I think, we have like 2 or 3 weeks before we find out that he's getting arraigned.
I mean, there's something else to be said because, again, movies, TV shows, you know, oh, we got the DNA back in 2 hours, and he's the killer. Like, that doesn't happen in real life.
Yeah,
You know?
and then we sent that right over to the DA who's actively prosecuting this case right now in the courtroom, and we just got that evidence, and now you're going to be able to actually close the case in court. How did you get them in court without the evidence?
Right. Yeah. And it's all, and then the other, I love is we got to keep them on the line for X amount of time. Well, that hasn't been the case since the 70s,
Right,
but it's a
exactly.
great dramatic uh, storytelling device.
Yeah.
And I still remember, I think it was, to be honest, I don't know why this popped up, but I think it was in the Stephen King book, The Dark Half, where they talk about that in the book. And they talk about the tracing a call. And they're like, no, we can find out wherever they're calling from. We can go
Right.
back. We can go back and find out who called you last week. And anyone who ever got a phone bill back in the 70s, 80s, 90s that saw all the phones, like, yeah.
Right, you knew the number it was coming from.
It's not hard to do.
There was scrambling. Scrambling was a thing.
But again, not back then. Now they bounce it off satellites, and
Right. Well,
that's
yeah,
the
now
new
you can
dramatic device.
Actually,
Yeah.
what I found out is that with voice over IP and a VPN, even the FBI is having a hard time finding out who is making, like, swatting. I don't know if you know what swatting is.
Oh yeah.
There's been a few people that, like, Tim Pool has gotten swatted like 12 times last year, and Jeremy from the Quartering, he got swatted a bunch of times, and they cannot trace the calls properly because of voice over IP and a VPN. And that tells you it's a pretty powerful way to stay anonymous if the actual federal intelligence agencies that we have cannot track you down anymore.
Or you just have a burner phone, and as long as you're not in your house,
Right, but
chances are they won't find you.
burner phones still triangulate a location. So they can still GPS you and triangulate you with towers. As long as there's multiple towers where you're calling from, they will be able to find exactly where you made the call. Now, you might drive 7 hours to Minnesota or something, make that call, and then drive back. But that seems like an awful lot of work when you could just sit at your keyboard, talk on your microphone on your computer with a voice over IP, and just use a VPN, and
Yeah.
they still can't find you. I remember the movie Hackers, when they had they were on the payphone, and they would, like, put the little thing up that would hack the phone line, and they would call from payphones that are scrambled. And that wasn't even as effective because they still knew where the call was being made from.
Well, it was the genius of the hacker Dan Aykroyd in the movie Sneakers, where they were bouncing off. That's where I remember where they're bouncing off different
Yep.
uh, phones and all that. Very underrated movie, by
I
the way.
love Sneakers. Oh my god, that's my favorite Robert Redford movie. Yeah.
Better than Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid,
Yep.
Jeremiah Johnson, The Sting,
Yep. Better than The Sting.
Brubaker.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Yep. And the reason, I mean, I love The Sting. I have the album of the soundtrack of The Sting. I love The Sting, and I love him in that. But man, that ragtag group in that movie and Sneakers was so, the chemistry was so awesome, and everybody there was so into what they were doing. It was like, how do you not love them all the way up until the end when they take the money and they're like, well, what are we gonna do? Give it to Greenpeace? And then they do. Like, it's so great. Like, oh my god, I love everything about that movie.
Yeah.
Watched it as a kid, fell in love with that. I watched it so many times after that because it was just such a fun movie. And like, I don't even like, I loved The Italian Job, and because it was fun and it had good chemistry, but nothing really captured what Sneakers captured in how fun it was the whole time. And then when even at the rising action where you had like some drama and it was like kind of scary as a kid, like even that, it was like I never broke myself out of the ride. I never got off the ride. It just was the entire movie I was on the ride and I was loving the ride. And like The Italian Job almost got that whole thing, but the directing was, I would argue, a little bit choppier. So it just sometimes moved you from one place to another. Got a little motion sick, like a James Bond movie where like I'm in England, I'm in the UAE, I'm in the United States, I'm back in England, and I don't know. Okay, so things happen, but other than the flow, it was a really good movie. But Sneakers just had this start to finish, just so good of the chemistry, the ride, and the consistency of the feel of the movie the whole time.
It did. It was able to maintain the tone, throughout.
Yeah,
Italian Job, it had a good tone to it, but like, in the beginning when they, it was a little too I forgot, was Donald Sutherland died in the beginning,
yeah,
right? That was a little too real, little like, yeah.
very dramatic, very much like it. The way that it started and the way that it ended made no connection to the middle. The whole middle was your Ocean's 11, kind of like, we're gonna put all these people together and everybody has their backstory and it's funny and it's good and we're having a good time doing things and we're clever. But like the beginning and the end, it's like they wrote two different movies and they're like, yeah, but we need a plot device. So we had this great plot device in the beginning and we're going to finish off with that, but really we just want an excuse to have an Ocean's 11 movie.
Yeah.
And then, obviously the Ocean's 11 remake was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and I think what it was is, they were trying to steal something from Edward Norton, where in real life they killed their friend, so they would have just walked up and shot him in the head.
Exactly.
So I
It,
think if he had ripped them off and not killed Donald Sutherland, it
yes.
would have been a much better fit.
Exactly. That's probably what it is because it felt very rough. Like I hate when I get motion sickness in movies in terms of like or whiplash, or you're putting in this plot device, but the solution does not match the problem at all. Like it's like every Fast and Furious movie after like the second one. It's like, so you're my brother and you run a criminal enterprise, so I'm going to go to the moon and we're going to figure out how to get you, and I'm going to kill 80,000 people to get to you so that we can have a conversation. Like, bro, pick up your phone. Just pick up your phone. Call your brother.
My wife, every time she catches me watching a Fast and Furious movie, she says she loves me a little bit less.
Dude, there's a lot of those movies. You better watch out. You might be 2 or 3 from Papers.
Yeah. And again, so for me, you're stressed or whatever, that's Fast and Furious.
Yep.
Right? There's bubblegum there's bubblegum movies out there that are just made to put you in a good mood.
Yep.
And laugh, right? And those are those types of movies. For me, I remember, when I was doing implementations at hospitals and I was just stressed, and I'd come home and watch Guardians of the Galaxy when I was just freaking out, right? because I knew it was good. I knew I'd enjoy myself, and I could just, you know, it's it's like having a scotch, right? And I would watch it while having a scotch, so it was doing double duty.
That's not double. That's squared. That's
Yeah,
fun squared right there.
right. And
But
there's a time for like fun movies. There's a time for just want to watch a really good intense movie. There's a time like I have moods for every type of movie there is. Yeah.
yeah, I do too. I mean, I
And
have
you've seen my movie collection and how I have it categorized and all that. That's what it comes down to is my mood,
yeah.
you know?
No, and it's funny to me because I think about movies like music. Like when I'm feeling like blue, I don't want to listen to poppy, energetic music. I want to listen to like, Radiohead or like, Dashboard or like something like sad. And when I'm like in a pumped up mood already, I want to listen to music that matches my mood and it amplifies my mood. I look at movies the same way, even video games. Like I look at these all the same way. I'm like, I don't feel like playing a stressful game right now because I'm already stressed out. So what I want to play is a game where I like farm and like cut down trees and build a house. Like I don't want to do anything crazy. I want to watch a movie where I'm like relaxing and having a good time. Like I'll watch like The Matrix because it's just fun and cool and I'm going to watch that again and again and again and again. I'll watch Night of the Living Dead because it's predictable, but it's this beautiful piece of art. I love watching it from beginning to end. The music, everything fits together and it doesn't stress me out at all because it's not a real life stressor for me to have to deal with zombies. Like that's horror in general, but like I'm not watching like The Green Mile when I'm already like in a stressed out mood because it's just gonna make me more stressed out. Like it's just there's certain things you don't do. I want to have one more question I'm going to ask you about Alec Baldwin, and then I'm going to
Okay.
ask you a couple different, one about Halloween and one about a new movie coming out that I don't know if you know about. So
Okay.
the last question I'm going to ask you about with the Alec Baldwin is that I've heard several people say they want this movie to be shut down and they don't want this to continue with production. I would like to know what your thoughts on this are. I already know how I feel about it, but I want to know your thoughts.
Um, I honestly thought the movie was done, right? Um, Shut it down. It was all over. But I look at it like if you're building a building and a construction worker dies on the construction site, do you just scrap the building?
No.
So, I mean, they have money invested in it. So I look at it the same way. They have money invested in it. And again, I don't know how much, if this was day one,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
But they built sets, they hired actors. Think about once a movie starts filming, that's like the easy part,
Yep.
right? Actors have been hired, a script has been approved, directors, crew, everyone's there. Everyone is has they all have to stay the night somewhere. They all have to be fed. All of that has to be taken care of before they start shooting the single first frame of film. So all of that was done. I don't know how much of the movie they had already shot,
They were
but
halfway done.
so at that point, it's you almost have to finish it. But my thing is you look at a movie like The Crow where they turned it into a really great movie, and and it was acknowledged, and all of that. But I I love so let me put it this way. I love westerns. There are a lot of bad westerns. There are again. I would wonder if they finished this movie and it sucked. I don't know, but I know they would have to finish it. It's too much invested.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said. There's insurance and people who put up money and all this, and you have half a movie shot. I just hope they make sure it's good.
Yeah, so I had very similar thoughts to this, like, because I obviously, to me, it's contracts, promises, paychecks, and lawsuits. So, how are the people who are trying to sue the production company going to get their money if the movie doesn't make money? Like, we need them to make the money on this movie so that the people who've been injured can get their money, because you can sue anybody for anything, as our friend Jeremy will tell you. It doesn't mean you're going to ever get any money, because you can't sue somebody for something they don't have. And if they're suing a company like an LLC or like whatever the corporation is that they set up to make this movie, if that corporation has no money in its coffers and then it just shuts down after the movie is shut down, there's no money for you. You could sue the individuals, fine, but the easier money to make here is from the production.
Right. And that they might get a bigger settlement for that. But I mean, they have insurance for all of this.
Right. But they
look
still
at
promised people that they were going to finish a movie. There's investors that were like, hey, we put money up front for this. We want to get our money. Like,
but look at that Batgirl movie where they said we're not releasing it, and they just took the insurance settlement.
So that was a unique set of circumstances that I think was a horrible set of decisions that they solved with an even more horrible set of decisions. Like, talk about like screwing the pooch. That was, you had a movie. I mean, you could have completely recut that movie and you could have made it take another 2 years in production, and still you would have been better off than doing what they did. Like, it is not unheard of for a movie to go back into production. It's not unheard of for movies to get fully reshot scenes. It's not unheard of for actors to be completely eliminated from a movie. Like, what was that recent zombie movie with Batista? They had the woman that was in it. They superimposed her onto all of these scenes that the guy was originally on.
That comedian, yeah.
Yeah, because of what happened with him. This can be done, and it has been done, and it's been done effectively, because her scenes are some of my favorite scenes in that movie. And it was like, wow, she wasn't even there. That's incredible. Like, and she was funny as shit. And like, what a great actress. Anyway, that's besides the point. We need a sequel to that. But if you're looking at that as your decision matrix is, so let's shut down the whole production. And then the last point that I had on that was paychecks. It's the grip. It's the Best Boy. It's the catering company. It's the town that agreed to have this shot on their location. They're all losing out on real jobs that are going to pay substantial amounts of money. They're going to feed families this year. And if you just take that away from them because there was already a tragedy, all you're doing is piling tragedy on tragedy. You're just hurting more people because somebody else got hurt. Yeah. So I don't see the value. I'm going to watch it because obviously it's a Western that Alec Baldwin's in, so I'm going to watch it. But, the way I look at it is, if it's a good movie, it's a good movie. It stands on its own merit. If Alec Baldwin ends up getting arrested and prosecuted for a crime, that's separate from the movie. It is what it is. There's scandals in all kinds of movies that end up being great movies. I'm not like really concerned about that part of it. And I don't feel like I'm giving a criminal money as long as there's justice. He already paid out a settlement to the family, and he's probably going to be arrested and charged and go through hell, because as we know, the punishment is the process. Like, he's going to go through, and I don't care how rich you are, I don't care how powerful you are, going through a manslaughter or murder trial is not a good time. So
if he does go to jail, I'm sure he'll have a reality show about him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It'll be Orange is the New Baldwin, or Orange is the New Alec. I don't know. There'll be something like that where it's basically just him talking every day to a camera about his prison experience and how it's like the worst thing that's ever happened to anybody, and that it's still not his fault. But yeah, so that's I thought you would probably align on that just from a practical standpoint, because it is, every movie that's made is a project. It is a construction project. It's an art project. It's all these projects put together, and there's a lot of money and stuff tied up into it. It just doesn't make sense to rob everybody else of their money and their ability to do their jobs just because this guy's an idiot.
Yep.
But do you think that they should replace him as the lead?
I would think so.
I would. I would. I don't give a shit.
I guess it depends on how much it costs and blah, 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 bottom line. But nobody wants to see him up there.
Nope.
I was actually surprised that the guy from what's his name, Jensen Ackles, was in it. From Supernatural.
Yeah. No, I was too. I mean, the cast wasn't bad.
Yeah. Well, he's not. I'm a Supernatural fan, but he's only done like a couple of movies, and the only movie he did was during during the run of Supernatural was My Bloody Valentine remake,
which I liked. I
and
liked that movie.
I thought it was fine.
I
And
thought it
actually,
was
at the same time, the other guy on Supernatural did the Friday the 13th remake.
yes, which was not good.
There, yeah, it was. It
I mean,
was what it was.
I
It,
honestly, we'll talk about Friday the 13th another time because I do have another question about a different
okay.
horror movie. Your thoughts, predictions, and concerns about Halloween Ends, because you and I are going to go see that in like a week.
I again with all this stuff, I keep an open mind. I loved the what was the first?
Halloween, 2018 Halloween.
Okay, I thought that was fantastic.
Yep.
Halloween Kills. I just, for me, it was the crowd scenes. There was just some big plausibility because they went after they kept the spirit of the original John Carpenter versions, but they intensified them. And in that first one they did, and then Halloween Kills was just, uh, yeah, it was just yeah, the crowd scenes especially. We talked about that.
Yeah.
You know, okay, Michael Myers is going to whole crowd around him with weapons. He's going to take them one at a time.
Right. It's like an old Japanese like
Yeah,
fighting movie.
and again, I give movies. You know, I love almost every movie, and I give them all a lot of leeway. So I like the movie. Halloween Kills. I hope they keep the spirit up. I hope they. Um, I'd like to see what they do, and I think what they're going to do is finally. I forget because he's in these new movies. He's not some supernatural entity.
Right. They don't discuss the curse of Michael Myers. They don't talk about Sam Hain. What they did, they retconned everything after Halloween 1, not Halloween 2, because even in Halloween 2, they talk about the Irish curse of Sam Hain. So they had to nix all of Halloween 2, which is arguably the best Halloween movie. And that sucks, but they did a good job with making him a person who's very strong, who's psycho, who's extremely methodical, and they made him a lot more like a hunter than they, in the as he goes through the, if you want to call it, evolution of Michael Myers in the original series, he's not really a hunter. He's much more like a ghost. He shows up randomly in places. He's behind you all the time. He's slow walking, but like somehow he just always knows where you are. He has like this like spider sense and like this GPS tracker and Lori. So like that's how he's scary, is because he's like a ghost. He's the shadow. He's the shape. He just shows up and you're like shit. And then he's walking towards you. He's never running towards you. He's not a runner, not a big runner, that Michael Myers. And in this one, he's much more of you see him coming, but he is a hunter. He stalks his prey, much more like in the first one. They made him more like a stalker. Like he was stalking his prey. He was planning out the end scene with the tombstone and the dead friends. Like very methodical, very calculating, smart, very, very smart. And that I like that they played up a lot in Halloween 2018. But in Halloween Kills, I think it wasn't just the group scenes, it was the narration, the over narration from the main characters. Like you had the sheriff and you had Lori just sitting in the hospital talking over many scenes. Like for minutes, they had time where they were just narrating and telling you what the scenes you were watching meant. Like it was almost like they're trying to tell you what to feel and think about what's going on in the movie. And like I didn't need them to do that. I really could draw my own conclusions. Like I just didn't like the spoon feeding, and I kind of disagreed with their interpretation of the events. So I didn't enjoy that at all. I really didn't like Lori not being in any sort of danger. It just like I get it. She's not like 25 anymore. She can't just run around in a hospital anymore. But at the same time, it was very lackluster when they were doing all that narration. The beginning and the end of that movie were phenomenal. The scenes in it where he was just doing his thing and where he was stalking people and tricking people was just peak Mike Myers. Very well done death scenes, very creepy. They made him very, very dark and creepy. They did borderline, though, make him supernatural by the end of the movie. Like, Laurie was talking about how he's getting stronger the more people he kills, and like he's like regenerating and stuff, and like he's becoming more powerful as he gets darker, and it's like it was weird because I'm like, are you trying to say he's supernatural now? Like it just, that was also a part where I was like, I thought we were getting away from this, and now you're blatantly going towards it again. And I don't know, it wasn't really helpful to the plot device to make him supernatural, and I don't know, it just didn't add anything. I really didn't get it.
Well, they have to, you know, they have to at least acknowledge, you know, he was shot. He was in the basement. The house was on fire. He popped out. Like, I mean, I get that, but what I would like to see is at the end of the third movie, he gets caught, and then you flash forward 10 years, and he's in a mental institution, and he's actually talking through what he was going through. So he talks, and he's like, yeah, and he actually apologizes to Laurie, and he shows up and goes, look, I was going through some shit. Um, so I do have to apologize for all that stuff. You know, I had some demons I had to fight and kind of do that. I think that would be fantastic.
I mean, it would be hilarious. But I mean, the idea that he doesn't get killed if he's captured at this point is impossible. The entire town wants him dead. Laurie is actively going to hunt him down. The police want him dead. Like, nobody trusts that he's safe to be around. He's not going to get captured.
I forgot. Did Farmer Ted die?
Farmer Ted.
Anthony Michael Hall.
I don't think so.
The blonde guy. The old. Okay, didn't you see? You never saw 16 Candles?
Yeah, like forever ago. Like, when the hell was I supposed to watch 16 Candles? Like 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
It's always worth a rewatch.
I'll have to keep that in mind. That'll be on board for like a rewatch. But
watch Breakfast Club, because you watch it now, you'll be on the side of the teacher and not the students.
Oh, I did. I watched Breakfast Club. I bought a DVD set that had like a bunch of these like Fast Times and like all these things, and Breakfast Club was on it. And I was like, man, the teacher's totally the good guy. Like, this is terrible. Like, what the hell is wrong with these kids? Like, man. But no, I don't know if he died or not. But what I want to see, I want Laurie to die.
No. I
want him to kill Laurie. Here's why. If I have to pick between this ending because he's dead or she's dead, I want her to die. You can always get another actor to wear a mask and be Mike Myers in 20 years, and you can't get another Laurie Strode. And we're running out of time with Jamie Lee Curtis being able to do that role.
Well, they said this is the last one of this incarnation anyway. I hope you want this. She's done nothing wrong. Her whole life has been torture, and if she ends up dying, that would be depressing.
Right, but also unexpected.
I know you get confused sometimes. She's the hero.
No. Michael's the hero. No, but no. My that's exactly why I would like her to die, because I am tired of movies that are so predictable at the end, and horror movies of all genres have the leeway to kill off the hero at the end. Horror movies just distinctly have that ability to keep you on the edge of your seat because it doesn't always have a happy ending.
I still think they get him in therapy. He figures out what the issues are, and he becomes a productive member of society.
Yes, and he's excused for all of the hundreds of murders.
And the last shot is him working as a Walmart greeter or something like that.
Man, he would be great as it gets up to Halloween. Just standing at the door. He'd look really realistic. He'd look just like Michael Myers. He could put on a mask. He could work at Party City. That would be good if he worked at Party City in the Halloween store.
You see him with the Walmart vest, and he just looks at the camera.
Oh yeah, and he's got a good sense of humor now that he's verbal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. But he will die. In all likelihood, he's going to die.
It wouldn't be predictable, though, would it?
It wouldn't be predictable, but I think you would literally hear people in the theaters screaming at the movie theater screen. Like, what the fuck is this? So no, I don't think that's going to happen. But I do believe, I mean, just honestly, my prediction is that he dies. That they end it with at least the granddaughter living, probably Lori and the grandmother living, and the granddaughter living, and somehow they kill Michael Myers when everybody else couldn't. You know,
They're, they might kill off a minor character. They're not going to kill Laurie. They're not going to. I mean,
I didn't.
it's
They killed Lori's daughter off right at the end of the movie last time. I was like, holy shit, that wasn't even necessary. They just slam dunked on her. She like literally walked back into the house at the end of the movie, and then she turns around and gets rickrolled.
well, she probably wanted too much money for the next movie, so
Probably. I believe it is something like that because there was no reason to kill her off. It was literally like an extra death. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was cool because it was like, wow, they really took no hostages this movie. People died. They wiped out the slate. They killed Tommy. They killed everybody from the original. The only two left, you have the sheriff and Lori. They're the only two left from the original. And now this granddaughter, who's a mediocre actress. I really was hoping that she would do better in this movie than I gave her a lot of like leeway in the first one because I'm like, it's a kid. She's doing great for a kid. She's being dropped into a gigantic franchise. She has really big shoes to fill to be the new Lori. She's nowhere near that caliber. And she's like, even in the second movie, it's just very blah. Like she's very Kirsten Dunst-y, like just very like, yeah, I mean, you exist, you're doing an okay job, but like at the end of the day, like nothing special. Her scream's not special, her inflection's not special, her voice, Laurie Strode's voice was very deep for her age. It was very iconic to hear her talk. She was very tall. She's like she was an odd looking girl, but in a good way. And she acted and sounded very unique for women. She stood out 100% from her peers, and I don't know. I just think they're too big of shoes to fill for this poor girl. But I don't know. She kind of just was like the same as the first movie. Okay, so
and one of my things with horror movies is the open endings, and I hate them. I want a conclusion. I'm watching a trilogy here,
yeah.
and if they leave it open ended at the end, I'm gonna be pissed.
Well, you named it Halloween Ends, so if the shit doesn't end, it's really on you. Like, you really set up my expectations. Yeah. I want this town to have peace. After all of this time, I want this town to have resolution and peace. Not necessarily Laurie, not necessarily Michael Myers. I want the town to be able to sleep at night. That's what I'm looking for. This is not the kind of series where you need it to be like, but he's still around somewhere. Or like, but he's dead, but he could come back at any time. Or like somebody else is taking up the mantle. Like, we don't need that in this series. This is for all intents and purposes, a drama horror series. And drama stories have to have endings.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, I think with some movies, Friday the 13th or whatever, and it's an ongoing thing and whatever. I mean, people need closure.
Yeah.
Right. And they know that, I don't know. And again, and the thing is, people can write things. They can bring anyone back if they want to do, just close it out.
Yeah.
No,
I agree. I think that's, I mean, my expectations, my hopes, who knows what it's going to be, but I'm probably going to watch it twice in the theater anyway. Because I have to with movies like that. I have to. The first time I watch a movie like that, I just don't analyze it. I watch it to experience the movie the way it was produced for me as a piece of art, and then the second time I watch it, I'm thoughtfully engaging with more of the mechanics of the movie, the script of the movie, and the plot devices and stuff like that.
So Peacock has it for free the same day it's released in theaters.
Really?
They did that with Black Phone too.
So maybe I'll watch it in the theater, and then maybe like the next couple, like I'll give it a couple days, and then like maybe you and I'll debrief on it, and then I'll watch it again to see if I saw the same stuff. That'll be fun. Okay, one last question before I let you go. Did you know that they are remaking The Crow? Yeah. So I wanted to get your take on that, and I want you to watch the trailer. Because it has potential. 1994. Let's just go up here. The Crow remake trailer.
What if, um, what if we had more people to take care of? More things. We're gonna have a baby.
I'm not hearing it.
You can't hear
Are you
it?
sure?
No.
Oh, you know why?
I don't know.
Because you're on Zoom. Well, whatever. I'm going to put it on mute anyway because I'm sure I'm going to get copyright struck if I play this. So, I mean, there's obviously the makeup art. That's not terrible.
Who is the actor?
I do know, you're going to know who it is. I have to look at it after. I mean, it looks dark. Okay, so I think they're doing the origin story part. They're acknowledging that it's coming after this, the original. I mean, you literally can't see anything. It's like, why I get in the movie it's going to be dark because it's The Crow, but you're like, in the trailer, you can't show anything. All right, so we got some guns. I mean, it's not like we need to know what the plot is. We know what the plot of the movie is. But so far, the scenes look pretty good. I can't play the music because that's what's going to get me struck. So here's the deal on this. This is... Let's see. Let's go to IMDb again. Crow 2022.
Yeah. I don't see this doing anything.
So this is, let's see, stars Justin Main.
Don't know who that is.
He is... He's really not in anything. He's kind of a no-name.
No one, the director's sort of a no-name, the writers.
Have you watched the Hellraiser series at all?
I'm trying, dude. So the third one was tough. I know you say they get better, so I'm working on it.
The second one's the best one, and then it kind of levels off and gets way worse, and then like the fifth one's good. But there's a new movie on Hulu October 7th, and it looks pretty promising. But yeah,
Right.
I mean, I actually am more hopeful about this movie because it's a lot of no-name people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like, you know my thing. You have a classic movie, why remake it? It's a good movie.
Yes, so that's my first reaction to this was why.
It's almost the same. It's like when they remake a movie that was awesome, but it was European. Don't let the right one in.
Yes.
And
I
they
was
just
thinking
did
about the movie.
they just did the what was it? The not Mama, but it was a great, I think it was like a Swedish or Scandinavian horror movie, and they just remade it in America. And sometimes they do it almost shot for shot.
Oh yeah.
But it's American because God forbid we watch.
Yeah, you can't watch it with subtitles.
Right. Well, forget that. I mean, there's British series that they could just air as they are in America, but they wouldn't do it. They
Well,
tried to. They've tried a couple times, I think, to remake the IT Crowd. They can't do it.
The Office was better in America.
I mean, but I think the British Office would have done great in America.
Yes, it would have, but then we wouldn't have had Steve Carell in The Office in America. So
Yep.
it's not always a bad thing. Remakes are not always bad. They are most of the time bad. And the better the original, the worse the remake. But all those rules aside, it could be a decent remake. It might just be a decent remake. I don't see how it could be better. It can't be as groundbreaking, it can't be as gritty, and it can't have the emotion attached to it that the original does. But it could try. I mean, it could try. Like, I think about, like, the Predators movie from 2018 that I just watched. It was really good. It was really good.
No, I mean, yeah, absolutely, but it wasn't a remake; it was a sequel.
Miss
You
Nick
know?
just said, I watch everything with subtitles. I know you hate subtitles on English movies.
I'm a big. I just want a good movie.
No, I know. Well, this is my thing, is I don't think I'm going to watch this Crow remake. At least not for a while. Because I don't... this is where you set yourself up to fail. It can only be as good. It's not going to be better. It's not... because there wasn't a need. It's not like they're gonna redo Yellow Brick Road and fix the ending. You know, like it's like there was nothing fundamentally wrong with The Crow originally that you need to, like, hey, you know, now that it's 2022, we have a lot better technology, so we can make that movie work better. Like, it didn't need technology.
Well, yeah, they might make it all special effectsy, which, I mean, we live in an age now where you watch a movie with special effects and it doesn't even occur to you that it's special effects, which is the desire, right? You just want to have the experience. But I mean, then they take it too far, where it's all special effects, and it's like, okay, enough.
Like Marvel movies.
Yeah, but I mean, but to be honest with the Marvel movies, it's the effects are so good you don't even think about it. You know, and it's
Sometimes.
only when you watch the behind the scenes thing and you're like, oh, that was all green screen. Yeah.
Yeah. Star Wars episodes 1, 2, and 3. Very obvious. Everything was green screened.
Yeah, it's almost too much now with some movies. I mean, it's supposed to be just let me just tell the story and make it look good. But,
Yeah. No, but I don't see. I think this movie sets itself up to fail because it's not solving any problems. It's not searching for a fix for something that wasn't done as well in the past. Like, you know, Superman, the most recent Superman, obviously had a lot that it could solve in terms of special effects problems that the original Superman series had. Like, it's obvious that the upgrade in technology made Superman look incredible in the modern version, and it did not look incredible in the original. You had to suspend disbelief. You had to give it the credit that it's a movie. In the new one, you didn't even have to. You're like, wow, this guy can fly.
but don't forget the original Superman with Christopher Reeve. Nothing like that had ever been on the shown before.
Right, but what I'm
You
saying
knew
is,
you knew it was fake, but you were like, this is unbelievable. I still remember my father. I don't know if he ever saw it. My father talking about everyone was talking about that movie when it came out.
right.
I remember watching it on TV when it came out on TV with my grandfather, and he loved it.
But what
I
I'm
mean,
saying is that now it even is better. Like, you can do so much more that you couldn't do then.
well, the Superman and all those other movies, they actually hired scriptwriters that read the comic books. You know, there's so much good stories out there with the comic books. Back, you know, I would be willing to bet the person who wrote the screenplay for Superman the movie never read the comic.
Yeah, I would 100% buy that. That just knowing the IP from, you know, normie stuff that you would just get it from anyway, not reading any comic books at all. I totally believe that. I mean, it's the same thing with, like, the new He-Man, the Masters of the Universe series, where you have What's His Nuts being like, oh, I'm a really big fan, and it's like, dude, you clearly didn't watch the original He-Man at all, because this is not what it was all about. Like, you can't make it like this, dude. So, yeah, no, but I just think that there's usually when you have a remake that's, like, good that you can enjoy, it's because it's solving for something technologically that you couldn't solve for originally. And then it's like, okay, I like that. Like the remake of Ocean's 11 was really good because they just had the budget and they had the ability to switch scenes and things that made it a very good movie. And it's like, you know, those mashup movies like that. I think about even the new Star Wars movies, like so much better looking than even episode 1, 2, and 3. They could do way more. The special effects they're crisp, they're clean. You can have close-ups with special effects where it like looked really good. The fight scenes were way better in terms of technology, not in choreography, because actually the episodes 1, 2, and 3 had great fight scenes in choreography. Just not like it just didn't look good because everything was on a green screen and it was obvious. But that's one of those things. Like anything like that, obviously the Marvel movies look way better than any Marvel property from the 90s and 80s. Like even Batman, like what they were able to do with like the cars and everything. And Batman has so many iterations. So it's okay to make a remake and do a different take on Batman because there's all types of different artistic designs. There's different Batman universes and everything. Like it's okay to do certain remakes because it all has value all down the line. It's not trying to copycat. But when you have one story, like you have one plot, like a Stephen King story, and you're making another version of it and you're like, really? Like we needed this to be remade? Like The Fog, we needed to remake The Fog? Like why did we need this again?
No, we didn't.
We didn't.
Firestarter, I'm going to rewatch. I saw the new version of Firestarter because that was a good example where the effects back when it came out were okay, but you know, it was tough. But I just remember being frustrated with the remake because they didn't follow the book at all.
Right. Whereas with it, I was happy that they didn't follow the book and that they took a different twist on it and it made it way better than the original because it was watchable. And Pennywise, honestly, is way creepier in the remake. They did a great job with the makeup and effects. Like it was just a very well done movie, and it wasn't a carbon copy of the original. But like, we don't need another Shining.
No, but I mean, they did the miniseries for The Shining, which was great.
Right.
Stephen King did it. It was the book, not exactly, but very close. They're two different things, right?
Yes.
Two different interpretations. That's different.
Well, and the author was involved.
Yeah. Well, and again, you're younger than me. When it with Tim Curry was on TV, it scared the shit out of people.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with like Salem's Lot was huge. That's all we were talking about at school. Salem's Lot was scary as shit when we saw it on TV. And you know, I rewatched it, you know, a few years ago and I'm like, but
yeah, it does not
you
hold
gotta
up.
It's time and place though. It's you know, back then that was and I don't know if you know, but the movie of the week was a huge deal because again, this was before video stores and video stores, you know, so other than going to the movie theater, the only time you saw older movies was the movie of the week or the made for TV movies or the miniseries. They were very event driven stuff. I still remember watching the Stand miniseries, the original one with Gary Sinise, and trying to pause it exactly on the commercial breaks with the VCR. Oh,
well, that I was going to ask you. Do you think that there should be a new The Stand? Well, it's been done like 3 times.
It's one of my favorite books. So they've done it. I haven't seen the one on whatever channel it's on, but I obviously saw the miniseries. You know, they did a great job with it. But I mean, there was so much more they could have done. They really didn't touch on, you know, a lot of the stuff because it was just the budget wasn't there. You know, nowadays going through, you see what they did on the pilot episode of The Walking Dead where he's in Atlanta and it's abandoned and it's zombies and it was fantastic.
That's,
you know, that whole there's a whole opening thing toward the beginning of The Stand where what's his name, the rock guy walks through the Lincoln Tunnel, and the book, I still have nightmares from the book. The miniseries was bleh. I
Yeah.
don't even know how much they really focused on it, but because again, they focused. The book was over 1,000 pages,
Yep.
and they was even though the miniseries was what 6 hours, they still couldn't
No,
capture
it
it.
could have been 20. It could have been 20 easily. I mean, like, if you look at the Lord of the Rings series, all three books put together, it's not as long as The Stand. And that has, between all three movies, extended cut, about 10 hours of view time. You easily could have had 10 hours or 12 hours of The Stand.
I haven't heard the new one is. I haven't heard like it's awesome, but I haven't heard it's like horrible either. So I don't know.
It's, for the budget, it's terrible. It's the highest budget production for a show ever. It's $1 billion. And it is not good for that kind of money. The special effects look meh. It's very slow. It's long and drawn out conversations. There's not a lot happening 7 episodes in. You're really just still not getting a whole lot. And Gladriel makes no sense at all for her character. I mean, at this point, she's already like so old and she's acting like a bitter child. It's like not. It's not what I would have expected as the backdrop of Middle Earth and the beginning of the alliance between elves and men. It really is it's just not what I would have hoped for in a Lord of the Rings series. But again, this is one of the problems when you have a backdrop of movies that were epically excellent in every way, and you're going to now go back and try to do it again. And it's like, this time when you go to the well, it's going to be shallow because you took such a deep drink from that well the first time. It's going to be very hard to get. Like, again, setting yourself up for failure, I think. How do you do better than those three movies? Those three movies are going to be watchable for 50 years, and they're going to hold up. They're going to look amazing. They're going to be excellent, and they look good. I looked at the HD remasters. They look good still. There's no need to redo this, and you're filling these shoes of a masterpiece of an entire career for several people involved in it.
Yeah.
And you're going to come up and say, well, we're going to throw money at this and we're going to make original content that's based on the Numenorians. I don't know, man. I just think you're setting yourself up for disappointment. There's no way anybody was going to be satisfied with this that loves the series.
Yeah, I mean, and I watched the first one, and I actually was, I went in a little cynical, but I did enjoy it. I'll go back and watch it. Same with the Sandman. Sandman is the same thing where I just kind of I want to binge it.
Yeah.
I don't want to. It drives me crazy waiting for the next one.
Yep.
Because I think some of these shows they're meant to be binged because to have to wait to go back and remember and like yeah.
I think I'm going to do that with this show. I think I'm going to put it on cooldown because they are planning on multiple seasons. I think I'm going to put it on cooldown for like a couple seasons and then just watch it over the course of like a week or two. And I think it'll be more enjoyable when I'm able to consume more storyline over time.
Yeah, because again, you have to be just like with the movies. You got to be in the right frame of mind.
Well,
You don't
I was very open-minded when I watched these episodes. Like, I really wanted to like this show. I gave it a lot of room and a lot of time, and I didn't say anything good or bad about it at all until the last episode. And at the last episode, I'm like, all right, this is stupid. And, like, she's annoying the piss out of me, and I want to see some shit finally happen. Like, I mean, I'm 2 movies in now in terms of hours I've committed to this, and I haven't seen any movement.
But going back originally when I said that, I was talking about the Stand remake.
Yes.
I haven't seen that. I just added it in because I still get Netflix DVDs.
I know. I stopped doing the Netflix DVDs recently.
But I want to see because again, I haven't heard it was mind blowing, and I haven't heard it was sucked. So I'll see what it is. But again, the Lord of the Rings. Hey, you have Amazon Prime anyway. It's free essentially.
Yep.
I'm in.
Listen. Anything to get me some more Lord of the Rings, I'm down. And that's the thing that I said about the Alec Baldwin movie. I'm gonna watch it because it's probably a decent Western that has a good actor in it. Like, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch the rest of this Lord of the Rings series. I'm gonna watch the House of the Dragon series all the way through because I want me some more medieval, like, sci-fi type fantasy series. And there's not a lot. There's really not a lot of that in anywhere, especially with money behind it. There's like That's it. It's literally House of the Dragon and the Lord of the Rings series and the Wheel of Time series, and that's what I've got for my fantasy with a budget right now. I have no movies that are coming out anytime soon that are in the fantasy or serious sci-fi, unless you count Avatar 2. But if you, I'm gonna watch that too.
Well, and it's the same. It's the same thing with the new Game of Thrones series, where I think I watched the first episode. And I'm like, all right, I go, I it wasn't horrible, but I'm like, okay, I got to get into this. I wasn't in the mood to binge it, but I will get in the mood, and that's a rainy Sunday. Just watch the whole thing through.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that they're making stuff like that.
Yeah,
I
I
like
agree.
the fact that I wish it was more original. I wish they didn't just have to rehash. There's so much content out there in that genre. Why do they? And I know why, because it's a lot. It's a better business decision.
Right. It's a
To make a
recognized
known
brand.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, you could literally just go through Tor's entire publication and find thousands of new material to make sci-fi movies and fantasy movies off of, and
Yeah.
they're just not going to, because nobody's ever heard of it.
And they honestly, with Stephen King, they could have done The Gunslinger if they did it right. But they wanted, they basically combined 3 books in one Matthew McConaughey movie. It was
Yeah.
like, you know,
It was so bad. It was
Yeah.
so bad. Oh,
was-
good series. Did you see Jack Reacher has season 2? It's been approved.
perfect.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
you knew
So
that was
happy.
going to be a
Oh, of course. That show is fantastic. It is so good. Holy crap, that is so much better than the movie.
The movies. I mean, again, the author was, if Tom Cruise wants to make your movie, the movie's going to get made,
Yep.
and he's going to get paid. So I understand why he did it. And they stuck somewhat with the books, because I've read all the books, but the series starts with book 1.
Yep.
And
It's
it'll
so
be
well
interesting.
done.
They've got a good actor doing it. They
Yep.
got it's got a right combination of like realistic but pulpy. I always describe the books as extremely well written pulp. Right?
Yeah, it's probably accurate description.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy just goes town to town. Well, first of all, I've always got a problem with, nobody's walking up to The Rock and picking a fight with him like they do in the movies.
Right.
That doesn't happen in
No.
real life.
No.
You don't walk up to these monsters in real life, these actors, and pick fights. They don't.
No.
I bet if you walked up to that actor that plays Jack Reacher, has anyone just walked up and said, let's fight? It doesn't happen.
Who's even
Right.
going to try to piss him off in any way? The guy is massive.
And so they, but again, so you have these, I've been to plenty of small towns. I've never fallen into murder plots and all of that. So
Well-
you have to acknowledge that pulpiness of it.
Yes.
You have to acknowledge the humor of it. You got to acknowledge a lot of that stuff. And, they're well-written books, and it's a well-made show.
And the acting is superb in the show. Everybody is very, very sure of who their character is from Jump Street. Everybody seemed very comfortable in their roles. There was no rusty couple of episodes. It was like everybody was way in. It's one of my things like that I talk about as one of my aspects of what makes a great movie. Are all of the actors all in? Because you see that buy-in. You see that it's not something I can measure. I can't tell you exactly how I know that, but you could tell when everybody loves the project or loves the script or loves their character. It seems like everybody in that show loves their character.
Yeah.
And this is just very good chemistry between him and the sheriff and it's just fantastic. I mean, and to be fair, in the prison shower room fight, that shit does happen to big guys because they do try to win with numbers.
Oh,
I mean,
no, the most corrupt prison ever. But yeah, but yeah, I'm glad they do it, and I hope they crank through it pretty well, and I think they, because Lee Child's heavily involved, And it's a weird story too, because he was like an executive with the BBC and then just started writing American pulp thrillers.
That's really weird.
So you gotta just give him credit for that. But
yeah, so I just thought I'd throw in some of that good news. And let's see, what else? I don't have any other questions. If you guys have questions, throw it in the chat real quick. We're probably going to wrap it up because, good Lord, we're already past 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I have to get up early in the morning still.
So I'll give you this. I just rewatched it, talking about Westerns. Appaloosa. I don't know if you ever saw it.
I have not.
Ed Harris, Viggo Mortensen. Ed Harris directed it. Based on a book by Robert B. Parker, who wrote the Spencer books. He wrote a bunch of Westerns with these characters. Really well done. Renee Zellweger's in it as well. Very good movie. Yeah. So definitely give it a watch. I'm a huge Western fan.
Is it on Netflix or Prime?
No, I have it.
Oh, okay.
In my collection, so I'll let you borrow it.
I did. Oh, I was going to tell you, I got a 1 terabyte thumb drive that is both USB and micro USB-C. So I can transfer files quickly now between my desktop and my phone and my laptop that only has USB-C ports. So
Okay.
I have a terabyte of room to put movies on.
Check it out.
Yeah. All right, sir. Well, I don't have any other questions on here. I appreciate you coming on. It's always a good time. We still got to talk about Friday the 13th next time. But
I'm not up with Friday the 13th. I've seen them. I saw them years ago. I couldn't talk rationally about them, so we'll have to have a marathon or something.
Oh, bummer. But yeah, man, thanks for coming on. I'm gonna do the wrap up on the stream, but thanks for being on, and I'll catch you. When am I catching you?
Yeah. Well, we still have. I don't think Jeremy can make it. Was it next weekend or whatever we decided? But we can still do a Beckett trip. Let me know.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. I mean, at the very least, maybe we could do a movie weekend.
Yeah.
And then we're definitely seeing Halloween. So.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So then I'll see you soon.
All right.
All right, man. I'll catch you.
All right. Take it sleazy.
Fast and easy.
All right. See you.
All right, that was Chris Macarini. He is obviously the man. He's great. He's good to have on the show. I know that a lot of people requested him to come back on, so you're welcome. And there you go. And if you're in the comments section and you're watching this and it's not live, please feel free to let me know that you do appreciate when he's on, because it will encourage him to come on more often. But he is hopefully a frequent guest and always appreciated on a Wednesday. So this has been your Wednesday night stream, 8 o'clock. I know not a lot of educational life coaching type stuff, but hey, you got to have a good time. You got to enjoy life. You got to enjoy the good things in life. And hopefully you got some recommendations of movies, TV shows, and books to enrich your life, or at least get yourself a good scare. I'm going to exit out here with some music for you all. And I will see you on Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys rock on. Have a good week.